Hello, this is Everett Pierce, and it is December the 20th, 2016, 10 minutes to 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, this is Duly Noted Part 11. Duly Noted Part 11. Now, this topic we're going to discuss is our Electoral College. Now, I have placed video on my YouTube, which is Energy 321 COM. Okay, I also have Einstein 314 because 314 is pi and 3 March the 14th is also my birthday as Albert Einstein. Now, duly noted, Electoral College. Okay, I'm not a scholar of this two-system voting system. The first voting system is the popular vote, which is contained within the state. Now that we have 50 states, now you have to have the two-factor, right and left arms. Okay? Means a backup insurance. Why? Because you have human behavior. You have people developing, and they got many skill sets, many tools, positive and negative, and depending on how you use it, can either be constructive or destructive. Like the symbolism of the sword. What can be your salvation can also take your head off. Okay, now what's today? Now they've been advertising our Electoral College. Well, first of all, the error number 1, but we won't cover that in its entirety. First of all, why do everyone seem to know who the Electoral College is, where they can send them emails and call them up to alter their thinking or choices and give them death threats and whatever that they're receiving? Okay, that's for starters. The Electoral College, in a sense, they're kind of like, they're supposed to be undercover in that respect because of human behavior, for starters, because of what the Electoral College is experiencing. People call them up, please vote for Hillary, please, for the love of God. Okay, no, I'm just exaggerating, but you can imagine what kind of human behavior and the people they're subjecting, using intimidation and what have you. Or even saying, hey, if you vote for Hillary, there's $1 million in this thing. Bribing. But of course they won't admit it. I mean, so it opens up the floodgate to a lot of disastrous behaviors. Okay, because Democrats, ever since, even back in 1865, they hold this entitlement as if it's God gifted to them and it's their God birthright. It's kind of like being a king and queen. Hi, I'm from Harvard. This is mine. No, if you're entitled, you get the entitlement. It means you freaking work your ass off and you've confirmed many times, like a 5-star general. Confirmations that we can see and prove and touch and everything. Okay, so that's the Electoral College. Well, a lot of people, including actors, are promoting vote your conscience. Vote your conscience. Well, we've heard this many times. You know how something that if you hear it a lot and people do it a lot, it becomes the norm? Kind of like putting perfume or cologne on and you don't smell it after 30 minutes. You get sensitized by it. Vote your conscience. Now, voting conscience. What is the definition of conscience? Is your inner feeling. Okay, what's another word for feeling? Is your emotions. Okay. So let's use, I hold these truths to be self-evident that, okay, we'll say we're in a cave and we have God's mercenary. Okay? And there's two aisles going out, or channels going out. One will lead to your death, and you won't be able to escape it. Another one will take you out to a spring, like a hot tub, and you'll get to enjoy some really good relaxation. And you come up to this guy, and he says, you say, oh, damn, how do I get out of here? And if he's using his emotions versus logic, he could say, well, I feel it's that one. I really, truly believe, I feel wholeheartedly, means emotion, it's got to be that one. And then you go down that road, and you find out it was the wrong information, and you get ate up and fall down this pit in a torturous way before you die. And you're like, shit, why in the hell did he tell me to go down this road? Okay? So, in a sense, like Ben Carson would understand this. So, if you need surgery, and you're talking to your doctor, and he says, well, I think you need your left leg amputated. And you would say, what do you mean you think? Don't you know? Well, I just think that you need your leg removed. What do you mean you're insane? Now, if Ben Carson had said, we need to amputate your leg. And you say, well, why? Well, you got gangrene in it, and from the technology and the utensils and that we have, we are not going to be able to stop it in time before it spreads to the other parts of your body. And so we need to act now to get rid of it so it doesn't spread. Here's your evidence. And you say, well, damn, what the hell are you waiting for? Okay. So, logic and emotions. So now you're in this cave, and you ask the guy and you say, hey, I got to get the hell out of here. Which one do I take? And he says, well, for the last 1,000 years, let's see, everyone that goes down that aisle, that channel, never seems to come back. I don't know why. But the ones that gone down there, they come back through the channel with a towel, and they're all soaking wet. Say, hey, come and join me. That's all that I know. So if you want to come back and talk to me, you better go down that aisle. So now you're thinking logic, and you say, wait a minute, that person never came back. That means one represents death and another one's life, for the fact that he saw at least one time that the person came back. In his logic means, in theory, what he observed, using logic, that you're more likely to survive or stay alive by going down this one, using your logic. Okay, so what's my moral of the story? What am I getting at in terms of our electoral college? So when I'm trying to encourage my electoral college to say, vote your conscience, basically I'm telling you to use and vote the way you feel. So if Trump has pissed you off, or you don't like Trump, then vote for Hillary. Okay? Because our emotions will kill us faster than our logic. Okay, so the right hierarchy of things in terms of self-preservation would be logic first, in tow with your emotions. But you say, well, we see evidence of people like Democrats where they got the emotions first and the logic in tow. Well, you're supposed to be using both of them. Okay, so if they were using it correctly, okay, and like I was saying as an example with Ben Carson and the amputating, removing your leg, okay. So if he tells me, oh, I feel it's down that one, and okay, and if I was a Democrat and I say, what do you mean I feel that's one? What other, then I would switch, the yin-yang switch, into my logic. I don't want to be emotional. Because I have to think, because my life depends on it. I got to be able to use both. And I say, we mean you think. Do you not know? And he says, well, I don't know. You say, what do you mean you don't know? My life depends on this. Okay, so if he doesn't know, then I'm going to have to use my logic, maybe step a few feet into each one. And if I smell death, decaying flesh or something really foul, then chances are that's not going to be the one I'm going down. But if I go down this couple feet and I smell spring fresh water, fresh air, this is stale. No, this seems more fresh. So there must be air coming through there using your logic. But if you're doing your motions, you would just run right down the aisle and say, oh shit, and then you're dead. Okay. So essentially what they're doing is how wrong it is to vote for your conscience. You're basically saying, would you please do Russian roulette? Put that bullet in that chamber, spin it, and pull the trigger. Okay? That's what casinos do. Good luck. They want you to gamble. Okay? Well, that's how they make their money. Okay? So, essentially, they want you to guess. Probability statistic-wise, someone of logic, of using collective information in your emotions, they will hold a higher percentage of survivability versus someone using their emotions. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We've seen it. We see it in today's time. So how wrong that is. Basically, when they say vote your conscience, they're saying use your emotions. Because you're guaranteed if you're going to act on emotions, then we're in betterment because chances are you are going to make poor choices versus using your logic. Okay. Now, what is the standard? What is the default that a electoral college should be using? Now, granted that Trump is now the president. We can officially say President Trump. Okay. Our electoral college is not to engage their emotions. It's supposed to be logic in tow with their emotions. Meaning that they can't swing their vote because I think I feel, or I like Hillary, or I'm more of a Democrat. Error. Our electoral college is neither Republican, neither Democrat, liberal, or any of it. They're problem solvers. And they're going to look at the facts. And the only time that, in terms of logic, is, say, for example, let's say, I won't even use Hillary or Trump, but we'll say, oh, Billy Bob. Speaking of Billy Bob, Santa Claus 2, or Bad Santa 2, I can't wait to see it. Okay, Billy Bob, and I'm electoral college, and no one really knows who I am. And I happen to be peeking through this thing, and I heard him talking to his manager, and he's like, well, as soon as I become president, I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and we're going to take over the country, and then we're going to take out. And I was like, whoa. Okay, I can't take the first time hearing that, because maybe he knows I'm there, and he's doing it just for shits and giggles, something like I would do. If I know someone's listening, and just for the devil's advocate, I would say, hey, man, I chopped her up in about 50,000 pieces. Did you get rid of the evidence? I know it's terrible, right? Is toying with people. Okay, so I wouldn't, essentially what I'm saying is I wouldn't do it on the first time. And say, I would keep it under wraps. And I'd see, with higher evolution, you need at least 3 confirmations, minimum. So I would take it from a different perspective to see if all 3 complement each other. Once I saw all 3 complement, and I got this video that this person has this hidden agenda of destroying our government. See, our government the process. There's actually three processes, they say buffer protectors, okay, in terms of our government, of possibly electing the wrong president. The first barrier is our electoral college because of human behaviors and what has been illustrated this time around. The second barrier is impeachment. So when the president comes in, and of course, everyone and of course the media is observing him, and he starts doing a lot of stupid stuff, illogical stuff. Something that you would typically see with, say, Hitler or Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson. Then they can say, hey, and of course they have to have proof. They can't say, well, I feel he's not he's incompetent. No, you better come with facts. You bring it forth impeachment. You can say, hey, I have, we have audio, we have video. This guy is trying to destroy our country and this, or a nation, or a government. And this is the reason why. The video, like we've seen with the WikiLeaks and in the video and the audio, basically exposing some of the Democrats. So you don't just come out. Okay, and there's a third element, which I can't tell you which one is that third element, that third barrier, to ensure that the person that is president is for the love and passion for our country. Okay, I can't tell you the third one. But those just do know, duly noted, that that's in place. Now, the Electoral College and another part of its purpose, because if they can catch it ahead of time and say, wait, we almost got this guy or this woman in, and if he got in office, we had to impeach him, then it makes us look like freaking assholes. Like we don't know what the hell we're doing, and we don't want that publicized or even to be known with other nations, because if they think you're weak or unorganized or whatever, they might see this is the time they hit, because they can't even find their asshole. So if we come over, it's like it's like they're both their hands tied behind the back. So that's the reason for it. And then the second barrier is in event, the 90-10 rule means if you weren't able to catch them to prove their intent. See, intent is hard to prove. Very difficult to prove. That's why we have the chicken concept. If it looks like a chicken, sounds like a chicken, walks like a chicken, and tastes like a chicken, chicken, then chances are it's a chicken. Okay. So, that's why we have these barriers, because why? Human behaviors. God forbid, people selected this planet, Sixth Heaven, is a school ground to teach leaders. You wanted to be here, and then Energy and I selected you and say, yeah, you are ready. Come on over here. Okay, so that's why we have these things in place. That's why the United States has not fallen to many countries, and other countries have. Okay, so that's just the startings, giving you the understanding why the popular vote is for the state and state only. Meaning that within the state, we say, you want to, I'm just going to be bizarre. Okay, we'll just say, in your state is, and majority of the people there, and you know what majority is, 51% or more, and say 51% of California feel they have the right to have their head in their ass a couple hours a day. And now, as long as the majority agrees to it, then that's the law. They have the right to do that. Okay? But, and you say, well, I don't want my head up my ass. Then you have the choice, democracy, to move out of California. Okay? You have that right, liberties. You're free to go to other states. Okay? See, pro-life and pro-choice. They're both equally important. Choice means democracy, and pro-life, they're both equally important. Okay, now in the beginning, before energy started, of course you would want life. It means energy and motion. Now once population gets up, then you want pro-choice, and you want them together Because if you overpopulate, then you overuse your resources and then you die of famine. The hindsight of things. Okay? So that's why if this state here is all agreed to pro-life, then they practice pro-life. And then pro-choice is illegal, or you go to another state. And if this state says, the opposite, you allow that decision amongst the states. And then you give wiggle room, especially for those two type of things, because when you have two things that are equally important, and you can see the value of it, then you leave it up to the state of how they want to live their life, because they're both equally important. Okay, but that's far different than if this state says, we want to pass a law making it mandatory that people must take 1 capsule of cyanide every day, like an apple a day. And then I would have to say, oh, hell no. Okay. And they say, wait a minute, that's not democracy. I say, okay, you're right. But I will let everyone know that cyanide will definitely 100% kill you. Now, if you want to die, fine. If you, majority, 51%, want to take a cyanide pill, then so be it. It'll be passed. If you live in this state, you'll have to take a cyanide pill. But I would quietly notify everyone that if you live in this state, and there have to be warning signs, if you live in this state, you have to abide by this law. And since this is very deadly, that if you live here and you're a resident, you have to take a cyanide pill. And everyone, as you notice, the residents, there's no residents here because they're all freaking dead. So if you want to live here and you're wondering why you have a bunch of empty homes, that's it. I would notify them. So I still have to give them democracy, right? Because choices is very important. So if we only have a population of, say, 1,000 people, and then I would say, as a president, then I would say, I'm sorry, but I cannot allow that. Because you want for self-preservation. You want to ensure that the human race proceeds on. So that's why it gives it, you have to look at it as, you have to ask yourself many questions. Why would there be electoral college? Electoral means election, college, and what we know with college is someone who is educated. Now, and as we know as to why they're there, okay, automatically, why are they there? Because of human behaviors, as we have seen in this election. Okay, so they cannot be of any political party. Like I had seen one, I don't know if they were doing it to exaggerate, just to be devil's advocate. He was up there and was like, I'm like, are they kidding? It was like he was all raw emotion. That is not electoral college. And if it is true, then they need to take his ass out of there. We can't have electoral college basing their decision or putting the votes of the American people based on raw emotions, because raw emotions will kill you every time. That's why you're supposed to put logic and emotions together, like Star Trek, Spock and Captain Kirk, and know how to work them together like all the pieces to a Ferrari motor. And then it purrs, and if it's out of sync, then you hear it go, or maybe it may not even start. Okay, so that's why popular vote is strictly for the state. Another reason why for the Electoral College is it gives fairness. As we know that there's a lot of population in California, so people can win the election by the element of masses, which is what they were trying to do back then. Well, see, me as being the problem solver, knew on advanced level 3 of human behavior. I already know this. So I had to come up with a system that took an account for this. So that's why when you pass laws and you put certain procedures in, you have to hit it in all angles. Okay? And it may not be perfect. You're not looking for perfect. You're looking for functionality with a multitude of people, multitude of evolutions, multitude of intelligence, multitude of smartness. I mean, so on and so on, so on, So that's how you know. That's why with the United States, that's why a lot of things don't seem like it's perfect. It's not intended to be perfect. It's intended to bring about high functionality and keep us standing. Okay? Because, that's why, when you start thinking about a two-step system, why do we have a left and right arm? Why do we have male and female? Why do we have day and night? The yin yang, God and the devil. Okay? The two factor. Hydrogen and oxygen. Of course, they're paired of H2O, but they're two elements, which is in your body, which gives you life. Two elements. So when you're going to do an election, and this person's going to be your president, and what he does can either bring you up, like Josh Groban, I raise you up. That is like, now can you tell, I'm not much of a singer. I try to be. And say, I make a lot of money. I get up on the stage and I start singing, and people say, no, get off, please, Jesus Christ, no. No. But we have to have rhyme and reason for things. So that's why popular vote, and that was another thing. Okay, so they're telling the Electoral College, vote your conscience. Basically, they're saying, make your mistakes, please, for the love of God. Okay, so, and then another thing they were promoting, well, Hillary Clinton got the popular vote. We should be the winner. And say, yeah, well, if it's going to be that, then it will be, we'll just wait for California to vote, and that's it. We got our president. And then we've seen in the news with the colleges and stuff, first of all, they passed a law, you cannot videotape your professor. It's just unconstitutional. Present from Harvard. And us Harvard people, no. And then they videotape it. Students, if it's something out of ordinary, okay, they videotape it. And basically she's recruiting Democrats and using these little side tactics. Not only are they stealing, their money because they're paying to be in college in our youth. So when I saw that video and then him saying, well, this is an act of racism by Donald Trump, or terrorism, I mean. And, well, first of all, she starts out. Okay, this was the uniqueness about it. She said, well, Pence is anti-gay, but we can work with that. It's soliciting, it's like, okay, that genuineness to get your acceptance. So it's okay, we'll work with it. We'll be flexible. But Donald Trump is a racist and bigot and blah, 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 blah. And he's a terrorism. Oh my God, that's terrorism. Today in Berlin, terrorism is quite a reality, mind you. So they're using a scare tactic. You're a teacher. You have psychology, teach psychology. Okay? If you're going to teach politics, teach it from multiple levels. You don't say, here's a white piece of paper. No, you don't need to see that blue piece of paper and a white piece of paper. This is paper. All you need to know is the white piece of paper. Limitations. They call that limitation. It's called, they're creating Democrats. Because if you get the population up, we can win the vote. So that's why these things are in place. So in this video, I've been trying to practice a little more of my sense of humor, my being a comedian. I don't know if I get paid for it, but hey, you got to practice. Okay, so I mean, I can write a volume after volume just because of what I had to do to think about in all different areas in terms of the Electoral College, the popular vote, sectors by sectors by sectors and structures, it would make the encyclopedia seem like a pamphlet on your doorstep. And I dare anyone say, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about this. I would suggest not, because once we start explaining it, you're going to feel so pathetic. You're going to crawl underneath that rock and never come out. And I've done it, and I've seen it, and it's like, you are useless to me if I put you in that state. Now, that's why taking things, that's one of the problems, reason why Hillary lost the election. She took that sucker up and then it flipped. And one of the natural responses to human emotion, when you push anything, I don't care if it's something good, and it's like, I want to love you. But if you do it too much, you'd be like, get away. Anger. That's what she did. As well as her followers, her voters. And a lot of them were new and haven't voted in a long time. So they're inexperienced. So they're out there gung-ho, yeah, blah, 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 yeah, blah, 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 yeah. And that's why everyone was surprised. And even in her tone, she's out there talking in terms of she already knows she won this election. And you can sense that. So anyways, I put a video series just on, which is part 8 on Hillary. And we're up to a D, is beyond a shadow of a doubt, we hold these truths to be self-evident as to what truly contributed to Hillary's failure. It's human behavior. And this is notorious, historical, since 1865 and beyond with the Democrats. It's like you're a number 2. You're supposed to learn how to be the best number 2. And that can go either positive or negative. And it seems like they're a coal miner because they're always digging down. How about flip it and learn how to be the best number 2? And then the Republicans, being the number 1 in terms of hierarchy, the way we got this thing set up, the voting, everyone gets a fair chance at the presidential chair. Okay? So it's not like, well, I'm number 2, I want to be 1. And that's essentially what we're seeing with the Democrats. It's like they're not humble. They don't see themselves. It's like, it's okay to be a 2. It's okay to be a 3. If we had a system where we had a 3, people would vote a number 3 factor in. If he sells himself, he has to own it and sell it, or her, no matter what number you are. Just like our number says, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have to work together. But you got a lot of people that can't humble themselves. And it's like, I can't sing. But something? I'm okay with that. But the Democrats can't seem to get over that hurdle. And then they want to save face. And they want to sling and mudsling. I feel like I'm in a divorce court. Mudslinging. And all they do is they flip the second coin. Being a poor sport. Poor loser. And then 300 million Americans, not to mention 7 billion people, they're going to say, next time a Democrat gets up there, they're going to say, pardon my French, fuck that. We know how they are and how they have been. We're sick of it. And that's essentially where we're at. Democrats, that old way of thinking, that legacy is over. Guarantee it. Because the next 4 years, and then Donald Trump's second term, it's going to be rock, iron, solid. That Democrats are not going to be able to come into the government with a bunch of their nonsense without it putting contrast that it's obviously crap. Okay? We have to rise to a different and a higher level of thinking and doing. And stop being the negative side. Stop being a coal miner to your level 2. Go up. Like New York, they build up. They're on bedrock. They can't dig down. They have to go up. Learn how to be the best number 2. And then you work together on things. So the Electoral College. Yeah, when I was seeing it, and it's like, wait a minute. Now, I can let that somewhat slide. You know, it's like, okay, we know our electoral college and stuff like that. Okay. But for the fact people are sending them letters, they're using all these tools to persuade them. And that's why electoral college is supposed to be basically on a higher level than a Supreme Court judge. So if most people know Scalia, okay, so our electoral college is even higher than Scalia, who just, rest in peace, is he or she is going to stay, and if they can prove this person's detrimental, he has to prove it. He can't just say it, or I feel Trump is not adequate. They can't do that. You know, and then your second safety catch is impeachment. And you can do that quickly, especially if you got evidence. You can draw a hearing like that real quick. You put a hold on it, especially when you got evidence. You can't be hearsay shit, or I think, I feel, you know. And you can put a stop right on it real quick. And then, so, you know, that's just the beginning introductory to the Electoral College. It's for your protection. It's for our nation's protection as to why we have it there. And just by what I've explained, if we didn't, okay, now, how do you know it's supposed to be there, or how do you know it's in the right placement? Is take it out. Take it out and say, okay, we got a Charles Manson out there. We got a Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, it may sound funny, but we use Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay, and we say Jeffrey Dahmer does what the Democrats are doing in California. They are recruiting and they're conditioning our young minds. And now Jeffrey Dahmer's type people are up to 70 million people. Maybe it's 100 million out of 300 million. Okay? They win the election. They get in the office. They start rearranging things. So now what we know of Jeffrey Dahmer, now they got the power. They got the military. And then they hunt down the ones that didn't vote for him. They kill them and they eat them. Now we're down to our population of 100 million. Now, if you're needing to lower your population because you're overpopulated, then, you know, that might be a suggestion. I know it sounds crazy, but you think of all the people that's been in the media, hideous crimes, raping, murdering, you know, and it's like Democrats, you get certain parties where you know, or KKK, or White Lives Matter, or Black Lives Matter, or Green Lives Matter, or, you know, if they build a population up in terms of masses like piranhas, you know, one piranha is not going to kill you, but if you're in the water-infested piranhas, they got teeth. I mean, they can eat you real quickly. So, and needless to say, you wouldn't want to put your hand in there, let alone dunk yourself in there. So that's, when you take things out, same way with popular vote. If you take it out of there, if you take popular vote out, you say, well, how do we know which law we want to go with? Okay, popular vote. Then you have civil war. Okay, because the North says, we want niggers, we want slaves. And then the South says, bullshit. You know, no man owns another person. You know, if he puts it in the ground, he grows it, he eats it. You know, that stuff. And I hate to use the word, what I said earlier. But in terms of communications, to illustrate is not in a derogatory. It's more just to illustrate the evolutional development and the ignorance, you know, especially when you go back to 1865, the way people thought back then, and they actually were thinking that they were smart and they were really on it. And as we know today, when we see that behavior, it's like we hate it because of the repercussions that come from it, you know. So, I mean, see, I struggle when people say, I'm a white man, I'm a black man. You know, I'm trying to understand that because all I see is 50 million shades of brown. So, and I see every piece, every person, whether I like it or not, are like little tools in an auto mechanics toolbox. And if it's done in a systematic way, it ends up being pretty awesome, just like our Electoral college. So if you take out a popular vote and everyone's pretty much doing whatever they want to do, then you got chaos. You know, like what happened back in 1865. You got Civil War. You had these people wanted this and this people wanted that. And it was like you had to put some, like Donald Trump has said, you have to put law and order. You have to put a structure to it. And there's a reason. And you don't just say, well, I just want fences. Well, you better come up with a list of 1,000 things that is constructive to putting that fence up. And why? And it better be for the betterment or self-preservation of man. Okay? So, you know, but if your list over here of negatives and destructive starts adding up bigger than your constructive, then you may want to think it or keep looking at it, you know, because you may be revamp it or whatever, but if you can't get it where it's heavily on the positive side, then you'll have to trash it and try something different. Okay, so that's why in terms of problem solving, you take that element out. Or if you don't take it out, replace it with something else. Like say for example, okay, I had a woman who come in and says, I just don't have a relationship with just anyone. I said, okay, that's fair enough. Okay. I said, but do you take the same perspective to a toilet? If you're in a restaurant, do you run all the way home to use your toilet because that's what you're familiar with? Or do you use the toilet there? So we have a lot of mixed things of people of, you know, I call selective living. You know, that relates back to human behaviors. Okay. And that's what I'm saying with this video is I'm a man of communications. You know, it's not my intention to insult anyone. I use different parables, analogies, whatever you want to call them. Is basically my bottom line is I have to teach it in a way that you'll never forget it. Because if you forget it, then I'm essentially wasting my time. You know, students out there and the professors when they teach it, and then the student can't remember a year later what the hell they learned. It makes me look like a pathetic fool, incompetent fool, not to mention. So I can imagine what they are feeling because they're focusing on creating and recruiting Democrats. You know, I have appreciation for all the parties, political parties. You're here for a particular reason because you have proven yourself to be awesome. Okay? But on the same token, like the sword, what can be your salvation can also come back and chop your head off. So we have to be aware of these foundational elements of energy. So with that, I think this will conclude part A